ish. We are short euro. We haven't had a euro trade in quite some time. The last trade we had on the euro was let me check. Ignore all this. Here, no. This was the last GU trade, which was the 2nd of Feb. So yeah, it makes sense to get a setup around now too, like frequency wise. It was the CPI. I think it's also CPI today too. God, there's going to be a lot of stuff here actually. Here, yes, here. So the 10th of January. It's been a month since we last had a trade on the euro. Wow. Hang on, what time was that? 12:32. And what time was this? 12:23. Right. So it does make sense to get a setup on the euro, and I'm pretty sure this also does coincide with CPI. Thorax Factory. Let's have a look. Let's put some music on. Chill though, of course. I'll put Barrington Levy in or something. Save to watch later. I would like to watch that. 1 second. So yeah, I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. Put a 15-minute video on. Haha, yeah. So CPI today. So I've already actually brought this trade down to one of my mates quite extensively. But I guess I can just go over it again. So if I just start on the time frames that I actually utilized, what I done was I started on the active trades broker first 4-day, and what I done basically was cycle through. I'm just gonna. There we go. So I started. Oh my goodness. Right. So if we look at the first to say in the 4-day input and pushes, I'm gonna break this down a little bit better, seeing as I'm on YouTube, than I would to my mate. Anyway, so here it looked, this push to the downside setup is done. This push to the downside, like overall, started to like kind of resume here. So I'm just gonna mark this up 1 of 4-day, and then it just, oh my, right, it's not going our way, is it today? Anyway, and then it just started to push to the upside from this point, right? From here, and then it started to arc out and like wane interest here as this most recent bar closed, even as of here to some degree, but like it did rally higher. And then the way participants traded, like here, it kind of showed that they may not be longer willing to continue trading with the prices what are available on this occasion in the same fashion before, for example, favouring them on the sell side to a certain point until they reverse that intent, and like that intent dissipates basically. And anyway, yeah, that is what happened. So this push looked good to push to the downside. Obviously, it's set up as did set up as done here, to be honest. But I would have waited for this bottle close before I would have marked the low. And then this kind of like wick rejected, then this pushed is like this. It's quite iffy, this, to be honest. So I then went to the 3-day, and then you can see here this like structure a bit more granularly. So like it pushed to the downside, pushed to the upside. This push to the downside definitely setup is done. But then the way that participants started to trade like here and set like this push up here, it looked good to possibly resume. But obviously that didn't happen. And traders then again perceived the worth of the underlying product at this area of sort to continue buying, and they did so and resumed the push to the upside. And then it was just like to continue. And then as of this bar close, they set up this push as done and showed that, well, basically as a result of how they trade, like literally shows us that participants were no longer willing to continue buying at this region. And then they pushed the downside emerged, and then it just fell off a cliff here. And then this push setup is done as of this most recent bar closed. Then this push to the upside setup is done, and then this push to the downside, it's a bit iffy actually now that I look, just based on the bigger top side wick, which I've only kind of just discerned this now. If I just mark up all these 2-day, whenever I say 2-day, it sounds like I'm saying like today. And then signs start to show here of interest like waning to continue trading in that same fashion, and then again same here. But the push ultimately, as a result of how traders trade like, setup is done, like the way they trade like, presenting the info relative to the price structure amongst the existing trend in play, set this like trend up to the upside is no longer in play anymore. Like they no longer were willing to continue buying, and they started to sell here, and then it's just likely to continue lower. But we would track that bar by bar by bar, of course, like showing us how the interest is actually prevailing, basically what interest is prevailing rather. And yeah, to be fair, traders trading in this fashion, it is a bit iffy actually, but I would honestly wait for the next bar close to decipher whether this push to the downside's done, to be honest. It's the same scenario here. So like, you see how traders trade like here amongst the existing structure of this kind of quantity push to the upside, price coverage too. It's a bit iffy, but you would just wait. Again, you'd be waiting. You had still sat at that topped out region with at those prices with which you are unsure of how on this occasion, based on how traders have been trading, like it's like equal kind of. What side of intent is likely to dominate with the prices that define the market. So you would just wait, and the push setup is done here on this bar close, and then obviously it immediately setup is done too. But it would be iffy with regard to whether the push would be likely to continue pushing or not as of this bar close. So you would just kind of want to wait, basically, if you were just looking at the daily. And anyway, I'm going to stop rambling about it and just mark up, because I just kind of want to go over the trade. But yeah, this push to downside relative to daily is done, and it looks good to kind of push higher, to be honest. But then the 12-hour, as of the most recent bar close, I'll just not ramble and I'll just mark it up. So this push setup is done as of this bar close, but I would just mark this as the low, and then it just keeps pushing to the upside. Setup is done as a result here, as a result of how trades trade like. Here was a bit iffy, to be honest. Keep waiting, and then resumes, and then setup is done. This push to the upside, setup is done. Setup is done on the downside. And then here it's quite iffy because look, it's sat above previous Saturn pushes range high, so it's like an overextended territory, and like I'm just gonna turn my phone off. And you know, ultimately it would be contingent upon how traders trade, like and set up the push and play with regard to how we would determine how it's likely to keep pushing. But like with them trading in this fashion here, as well with it being at the overextended region of the previous Saturn push, way more price coverage. It's a bit iffy with regard to how on this occasion participants are likely to continue trading. So and on top of the wick rejection, so you would really want to uncover what that like how next step lower time frames are set up to continue pushing and kind of reveal that true like 12-hour intent, because sometimes like what can happen is, without looking at the 8-hour for example and the 7 like obviously paired, is that like the sometimes the like 8 can be kind of bullish, like sat like about here. Obviously, this is it. Yeah, see, so this isn't the 8-hour. This is it. So sometimes what can happen is this 8-hour can be sat like a nice bullish pin bar, and then it would make sense to continue buying. And then also you got the backup of like the daily and the 2-day, and that just on this occasion there's short-term intent split like over 8-hour time segments. How they've been trading like and willing to trade with the price what are available, and how those prices in the next bar, if that next bar opens at a similar range of same prices and doesn't just gap out of space. So if it opens like it did as of like the next similar price range, and how those prices have been interacted with over the previous past bars up to this point too. Like, how tired is it, and how tired is it whilst the intent is still being kept up the way it is. Up to this point, it shows us how participants are likely to be willing to continue to trade with those prices what are available on that occasion, like on this occasion rather, sorry, and therefore that also naturally inherently spans over 7 till 10, right? Because like the 8-hour bar closes at 7 on the futures based platforms, right? And at this CFD platform, it basically replicates as best as possible the futures. Anyway, so this is really iffy whether this push is done. See, it's just really iffy, even on the 8. But yeah, definitely sets up as done here. Let's push the upside, sets up as done. And see, so it is a nice overextended push. I wouldn't even really classify this push as done, to be honest, as the most recent bar close. But yeah, like I said, it can go two ways with like the 12-hour setup the way it is, and like the 8-hour shows the reality, because the 8-hour shows the reality of the true intent as of 7, which is likely to prevail over 7 till 10, right? Of how traders are willing to trade like with the prices what are available in this vicinity up to this time period. So who's present on this occasion, basically, who's likely to be present as of the people who've most recently been participating. Like, they're the most recently active, so it's like people from 4 years ago, yeah, like who've been trading. You can't guarantee it they'll be there, but it's likely that the guys who are trading right now are likely to trade over the next few time periods anyway, relative to this chart perspective being looked at. So this is why you flow with the chart too. It's like there's so much, it really does bring a lot of logic, this type of trading. But yeah, I may as well just match up all these. Balls. Well, this push setup is done as here as of this bar close, and so yeah, you are at the overextended region, and so we're seeing the true reality of the 12-hour here, and it's like you are at the overextended region, and you did close as a bearish bar, so it is showing some sort of like sell intent to like a rise in, let's say, in with the prices what are available in this region, up to the point of how traders trade, like up to the point of the market being sat at where it is. So it's like up to throughout all these bars, trading through all these prices up to this point, and how they were willing to trade, like and then obviously here you see this bit more granularly. This 7-hour push did set up as done, and then here resume, well, a new in play and push, like retrace this, push to the upside, and then became an impulse and just kept impulsing. And this push that was done, it retraced, and then setup is done before it retraces the entirety before could become an impulse, and then anyway another retrace would likely to be folded here, aka just a new in play and push to the downside. And then this push started to setup is done as a result of the interest and intent and conviction participants had to trade throughout each of the 8 hour time periods and contributed to the structure of the in play and push. And you can see it round out, it arc out at the trajectory, you know. And after like it had pushed over a few bars, right? And then anyway, setup is done here, and yeah, I guess I can just mark it up from here. 7 hour, yeah. And then I would actually say the 7 hour push is done, so that's good. And then the 4 hour, this is a good time frame to look at. And then anyway, yeah, this 4 hour push looks good to keep pushing lower with regard to the price, with regard to the aka this the 4 hour intent, which also spans over 7 till 10, is poised to primarily be weighted towards interacting with the prices what are best bid primarily over from the open of the next bar, which is 7, basically to the close, based on the 8 and the 12. So therefore that's like basically showing you the post direction poised to primarily prevail over 7 or 10 by discerning the intent to trade present and how market participants are likely to interact with the prices what are available from 7 over till 10, based on how they've been willing to trade like over different time periods top down. Anyway, you drop to the 2 and you see this 2 hour bar close. This would basically show you that like and say to you that you need to look for a very nice 1 hour setup, basically the 1 hour to set up appropriately. And then anyway, the 1 hour also suggests that too. So what I done was mark out the appropriate fib pull as of the given day's situation at hand as of 7. And I just basically wanted to see a very nice 1 hour bar close here. And yeah, it also had these wicks too. Anyway, you got that here at 9. And then you drop down and look for a sufficient anatomic bar close. You got that right here. Forex.com, it looks even better. I guess I can go and look. Yeah. Well, I was kind of referring to the 15-minute, but even the 1 hour looks good. But yeah, look at that. That is just absolutely prime setup, basically. And it also coincides with news, which is also pretty odd. That like this is weird. I mean, like I said, I learned of Andrew effects, and like he also had the same thing where like most of his setups would coincide with news. Inherently, which is a bit odd, isn't it? But anyway, the chart colors are going to change here. I'm just going to change them back because I don't really like these anymore. I like the what the hell happened? I like the Otis Hill colors. Whoops. Here we go. So if I just basically not ramble, I won't ramble on because I've already done that. But anyway, so we'll just go to them. This is what I like to do as well. So like out of the 432 day, I'll just cycle to the one that's closed most recently. So for example, if the 432 day, the most recent bar out of these was, for example, Tuesday, I would look at that. But if then you've got a one on the given day, of course I'm going to prioritize the data that's presented to us now, because that's the information what's most important to us now. How traders are willing to trade like with the prices what are available right now, because that's going to dictate the subsequent price movement, what you are reliant and dependent upon incurring profit. So yeah, anyway, Wednesday you got a nice wick rejection at the lows actually right here. For the like you kind of bottoming out just overall, but like if you looked at the granular structure, it looks kind of iffy. And that's what you go off. You don't just go off your own interpretation. You go off the data of what's actually being portrayed to you. So yeah, anyway, the 2 day looks good, as I said. Blah 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 blah. I'm just gonna cycle through it daily. Same thing as what I said on futures. 12 hour as of the most recent bar close. Same thing. Yeah, wick rejecting at the highs of a overextended push. above previous hand push range high. Of course, we're talking short term in play hand pushes here, but this is just how the 12-hour intent trades unraveled as. 9 hour. Pretty nice bar close, to be honest, with the 12-hour being set up the way it is. It's above previous hand pushes range high. Nice kind of quantity push, sufficient price coverage. And then the way participants are trading, like he has kind of shown that their interest and conviction to continue trading in that fashion is kind of no longer off the sort. And it kind of, and then if you fib the leg up, meaning like I would probably say this push is done actually relative to the 9 hour too. But if you fib the leg up, I should have a 9 hour fib. Maybe visual 8 is also it, yeah. It looks good to retrace, to be honest, to better pricing. Maybe it's these wicks possibly. Yeah, let's just say that. 8, same thing, looks pretty darn awesome to keep pushing lower. 4 hour, pretty also awesome. You know, like, yeah, push to the downside, push to the upside, wick rejecting at the highs, this push became done. Same thing, this is beautiful setup is done. Like, healthy kind of quantity push, decent price coverage compared to the previous hand push. And then just basically going off the in-play hand push itself too. Interesting in conviction to continue trading in the same fashion as participants had consecutively been doing so and consistently been doing so, exhibiting the same repetitive intent over consecutive time periods, one after the other. Then they became tired and they were no longer willing to continue trading in this fashion. That's what this shows, literally right here. Like, the price action just shows the last traded price, and so therefore you can make logic of that, like how the structure forms, right? So here they continue to trade higher. And then, what do you know, after the market starts to trade above previous and push, and then a few more price coverage, a bit more oomph, interest starts to wane, which we see in here. They buy it up, and then they're no longer willing to continue buying, and they start to sell it lower. And then it starts to get iffy here. Not much buying intent, not much selling intent. And then here, the push setup is done. And then if you look at the 3 hour, same thing, but a bit iffy. You would want to look at the 2. And then anyway, the 2 hours pretty awesome to set up lower, but obviously also factoring in the futures time frames. But then also the 1 hour setup pretty bullish too. And then also the 3 hour isn't that convicted relative to a one. So that, and then also you got the futures, like I've just said, that you would just basically want to see a very nice 1 hour bar close at this region of prices, and you definitely got that. And then obviously execute based on active trades. But bet you also did get a sufficient anatomy bar close here. Yes, you did. Same exact thing. Bam. And I do BLSM. Stop loss. This is a high hand. Sus price action to the left. Go to the left. See if there's a clean zone. This is also kind of sus. And then what do you know? You got this huge F off wick basically. And then you'd want to have your stop about this region, which is where I've got it. And we're going to win or go and lose.